Here we are, friends. Here we go. It's 12:06. Good afternoon. Welcome in. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased to have you with us this afternoon. We've lots to get into. There is a fire hose, a veritable cornucopia of topics. I mean, at the buffet, we can select from these topics as we desire, and off we go. We start with this. Speaking of making sense of the senseless, at least 2 people are dead at a Georgia high school. This is breaking news happening right now in Winder, Georgia, as 4 people have been wounded in a shooting at Appalachia. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yes, Appalachia.
Yep.
And I know Ken Weaver's on top of this right now. What do we know, Ken? 4 people injured and 2 people dead. Is that what we know so far?
That's what investigators are saying. They say they do have a suspect in custody. And that is, as you can tell from the images on TV, it is still very early. You've got kids all over the campus, law enforcement all over the place. But, one suspect is in custody. We're already hearing from some of the survivors, some of the kids who say they were in class, all of a sudden heard shots and screaming from what sounded like the classroom next door. So it looks like it's going to be another horrible day.
Yeah, that's bad news coming out of Winder, Georgia, at a high school there, Appalachia High School in Winder. There's the voice of Ken Weaver in a very different feeling, in a very different way. I need to say this. So I loved Jay Harper. Love Jay Harper. Jay's still going to be with us.
Yes, sir.
Jay he's around. He's going to be filling in on news. He's going to be doing some other things, perhaps even filling in as a host on these radio shows. But ladies and germs, on this Wednesday, September 4th, I got to tell you, I'm kind of excited. Wait for it. No, just cut it. You ruined it. Let's start over. Don't give me that look. Hey, Belle, how's it going? How are you doing, Belle? Hey, what's up? Hey, Belle. How you doing? Hey, Belle, I don't know why, but I'm excited. Huh. Just really kind of. Hey, Belle, tell me about hitting the post back in the day when you were a Music Man. You remember that?
I'm so excited.
Just can't hide it. Belle's about to lose control, and I think I like it. Ken Weaver is in the afternoons, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah! So, we love ourselves some old McMorray. We love ourselves some Jay Harper, but there's nothing in the world like Ken Weaver. And in case you missed it, Ken Weaver, management powers that be, the Nashville's Morning News, everybody got together, and it was, Ken, it's just better for you right now in your world, in your life, that you're doing afternoon news, and you are on afternoons. Henceforth, I'm so excited.
I'm pretty excited, too. Woke up at 3 o'clock this morning and went right back to sleep.
Tell everybody what you told me about the drive-in today, though.
Yeah, the drive-in was different. Where the hell's everybody going?
Where did all these people come from?
Yeah. I mean, you got dump trucks getting on the highway right next to me. I mean, there's semis all over the place. I mean, I got stuck in a herd of semis. And nothing against the truck driving man and woman out there. They are the backbone of this nation's economy.
Amen.
And they are the best drivers out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, when you're in a little 2013 Hyundai Elantra and you're in a herd of semis,
I'm getting this mental image of Ken Weaver driving in at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you're coming in. And there's nobody. And Weaver's like, what's everybody always complaining about the traffic for? I never have any trouble at all.
I'm making it in 33 minutes.
And then suddenly it's 9:45 and they're like, why the hell is everybody going?
I mean, dude, I'm 10 and 2. My eyes are the size of saucers. And because my air conditioner went out, my beard is flowing out the driver's side window.
You got the old 260 AC going?
Got the old 260 AC going.
Yeah, roll down 2 windows and drive 60 miles an hour.
Yes.
Well, we love you being here, Ken, and I'm excited. Jump in anytime you need to. Jump in anytime you want to. And, man, oh, man, I can't be more excited. I tell you what, the only way I could be more excited is if my name was Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
because Brian Wilson is as excited as can be to have you. I think he's saying, hail, the gang's all back together. That's what he's saying.
Yes, sir. Original Three Amigos.
There you go.
And looking forward to being back with Brother Brian and Brother Chris Weber, too. I'm looking forward to working with Brother Bellel, too.
Bell is excited in his own right. Everything okay over there, Bell? You good? Are you not talking today? You just choosing not to participate in the show today? I mean, that's what I thought when I called for the music. And let's get things lumbering under our own weight. It's Wednesday, September 4, 2024. It is episode 644 of our proceedings today. Bell, you're going to have to tell everyone the title of the episode at some point. It is Locks for Trump Day 186. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. For 186 days, I demonstrate my commitment to Donald J. Trump by growing out my hair for you. No, not just for you, for the United States of America. I'm growing my hair out until we have a new president-elect, and I'm thinking about growing it out until Inauguration Day if Donald Trump wins the election. More on that later. Speaking of more on things later, we've got a big debate watch party coming up at Scoreboard Cedar Creek. That's on the way next Tuesday. Starts at 3 with the drive and Brian Wilson, goes all the way through the debate. The whole gang will be there. I imagine that Brian normally lets us in at about 6 o'clock in on the show. We'll give you our preview of what we expect out of the debate, and then it's mano a mano, Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump going after it. And it's next Tuesday. You can watch with us live at Scoreboard Cedar Creek in Mount Juliet. Join us there. We would appreciate that. Now, there's plenty of ways to be a part of the program. You can dial us up on the telephone lines, open and available all 3 hours of our show at 615-737-9986. I absolutely love turning a monologue into a dialogue. You can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line at 615-737-9986. Very same telephone number that you use to call the show, you use to text the show. Ways to listen or watch, there's 99.7 FM from Southern Kentucky to Northern Alabama and all points in between. Obviously, you can download us on any streaming platform of your choice. Anywhere you stream audio, whether it's music, news, podcast, information, whatever it might be, you type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we're there for you. And if we're not there, tell us and we'll be there. And then, of course, there's Super Talk TV. Episode 644, broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Bell K chooses not to participate in the television side of the broadcast. I ask him on a daily basis, and he says no on a daily basis. That's why we call him Headless Bell. But he does title the broadcasts. And today's title, if he chooses to participate in an audio fashion, episode 644 is called
Matt Murphy, tons of great ideas that you will never hear. Now with even more Ken Weaver.
It's true. So I came up with an idea yesterday that I told Bell about. I was like, we're going to start a thing called Best Weekend Ever, Worst Weekend Ever. And people can call us on Monday at 12:35. I thought this was a great idea. I still think it's a great idea. I'll never implement it because I'm horrible at implementing these things. You call me and I ask you, best weekend ever, worst weekend ever. And then you tell me, best weekend ever, worst weekend ever. Then I ask you why and you tell us why. Like, best weekend ever, worst weekend ever. Matt Murphy says, best weekend ever. Why, Matt? Because we destroyed Clemson. University of Georgia, my football team ran out to score on Clemson 34-3, yada, yada, yada. Did you hear what Kirby's... So, apparently we're playing some high school team called Tennessee Tech. Where is Tennessee Tech, Bell? Do you know?
Tennessee.
That's very good. Can we nail that down a little bit? Can we tighten that up a little bit? I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to tighten this up, figure out where Tennessee Tech is. But apparently the coach at Tennessee Tech is, there's a reason they play these games. The big boy football programs play these glorified high school teams, and that's no disrespect to high school teams, but they play these games, and the teams that they play get a healthy check in order to be willing to come into Athens, Georgia, and Tennessee, all schools do it. And it's in Cookeville. Everybody's telling me Cookeville. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John, TB, Chris, 0026, Jim, Todd, Sandra, Renee, 0150, 7166, 3005, 8679, 309, Jenny. Thank you, all of you. Cookeville, got it. So the coach of Tennessee Tech was asked if he was excited about playing Georgia in Athens. And he said, well, no, I just, you get through these games. There's a reason that we do them. Obviously, we're not excited that we won't have our starting quarterback because apparently their starting quarterback got hurt the previous week. And so then subsequently, Kirby Smart was asked, hey, the head coach of Tennessee Tech says he's not excited coming in here to play the number one team in the country without his starting quarterback. What do you have to say about that? And Kirby said, well, does he still want his check? Which I thought was pretty funny. Anyway, that's enough sports on the talk station. 17 minutes after the hour. Okay, monitoring the Appalachia High School situation in Winder, Georgia. That's breaking news. According to #NeverCNN, which is on Monitor 2 here in the studio, downtown Music Row, Nashville, Tennessee, 4 people are injured and at least 2 dead in this Georgia high school shooting. And as Ken Weaver noted earlier, it is believed that a suspect is currently in custody. We'll continue to monitor that situation. I have a question to start the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour on our portion of the day. Do we believe, is the media going, and maybe it feels like a rhetorical question, but it's not quite a rhetorical question. I wonder if the media is going to just allow Kamala Harris to change her position on all of the major issues in front of the United States of America and not call her out on that. I wonder if that's the play for them. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do have the question, and I don't know how this is going to play out. One would think that at some point the mainstream media would become a little bit insulted. You would think. It is obviously the plan. And I have been describing this for several weeks now, and I want to go over it again. Beginning from the moment that Joe Biden was informed that he would no longer be the presidential candidate in 2024, and that apparently went down with Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, amongst others, explaining to him that it was time for him to step aside and that we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. The easy way, obviously, being that Joe Biden says that he is no longer running for president of the United States. He hands off the throne or the candidacy to someone who's never received a vote for president of the United States of America. Kamala Harris has not received one vote. Until such time as early voting begins, which, believe it or not, is next week in some states, Kamala Harris has received 0 votes in her candidacy for president of the United States, whether it be in 2019 or now, which is why I call her Candidate Zero. But because it happened, because it was recognized that Joe Biden did not have the mental acuity, the mental ability to continue to parrot the company mission statement, that they needed another horse in the arena to do that, they made the difficult decision it started with deciding that they were going to have a debate on June 27th, which is historically a very, very early time to have a debate. Why did they do that? They did it before the nominating convention. The Democrats, Donald Trump said, I would debate anyone, anywhere, anytime. You tell me where we need to be, and I'll be there. Joe Biden's handlers told him that, man, this will be a good opportunity for us to make Donald Trump look bad. Because, I don't know if they told him the truth or if they filled him full of bluster. But whatever they told him, they convinced him to challenge Donald Trump to a debate, suggesting that Donald Trump will never take him up on it, or maybe they knew that he would. One way or the other, Joe Biden was convinced to hold a debate long before the nominating convention. This was a test. And pretty obviously, looking back on it now, I said it at the time. This is an examination as to whether or not Joe Biden can withstand the white-hot spotlight of 90 minutes on a stage by himself with no notes, or if they must move on to a different candidate. They being the powers that control the Democrat Party, to include Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, amongst others. Well, that's right. We finally beat Medicare. And with that statement, we had our answer. Joe Biden obviously cannot withstand it. Now, there are other conspiracy theories. I won't even call them conspiracy theories. There are other theories out there involving whether or not they gave Joe Biden medication. I mean, they clearly gave him medication during the State of the Union address to get him pumped up and active and vigorous, if not a bit angry. We suggested that we would see the same type of Joe Biden on the stage that night on June 27th. We were all at Hot Springs in Murfreesboro waiting on that, and it just didn't come. And so the decision was made to replace him with a candidate that everyone knew was somewhat damaged goods and would need to have a reclamation. And that began the reclamation of Candidate Zero, in which she refuses to answer questions. She refuses to sit down with interviews. She's done one softball with CNN, and that's it. And they act as if that's all they need to do. She refuses to respond in any sort of informal or spontaneous way. And at the same time, they work over these many weeks to reclaim her with regard to the positions that she's taken over the last 5 years on everything, on immigration, on energy policy, on fracking, on offshore drilling, on foreign and domestic policies, everything, on inflation and the economy. And the only original idea that we're told that has come out of the Kamala Harris campaign in terms of public policy was lampooned even by the liberal outlets that suck up to her on a daily basis, like the New York Times and the Washington Post. I'm talking about her idea on price controls and price fixing, which you don't hear very much about anymore on the stump now, do you? On every major policy position that I can think of, Kamala Harris and her team are now changing their position on purpose. It is obviously their plan that the mainstream media will not call them out. And I'm very curious over these next 60 days to see if that's so. We'll find out together. It's 12:23, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More on that. Vivek Ramaswamy found his way on hashtag NeverCNN, and he had a few things to say about this. We'll play that clip next on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Did you know that most of the information that you receive about investment comes from people trying to sell you an investment product? Things like annuities and whatnot. Advertising investment products is the game, and they're going to sell you those investment products that they believe in and that pay them money on commission. Well, at Paul Winkler, they don't do any of those things. First and foremost, they never work on commission, and that's important. That means that Paul is not encouraged in any way to sell you any particular product that might not be in your best interest. As a matter of fact, quite the difference. They work as a fiduciary, meaning that they are legally, ethically bound, and frankly, they feel morally obligated to do everything in your best interest. That's what being a fiduciary means. Only a small fraction of people in the financial industry are actually degreed planners. You'll find them at every single office of Paul Winkler's, and he has many to serve you across Middle Tennessee. They'd love to hear from you at 615-851-1950. I am a client of Paul Winkler's. I'm also paid to talk about Paul Winkler on the radio, and I love every aspect of that because I believe in the way that Paul does his business. PaulWinkler.com. That's PaulWinkler.com, or call for a 15-minute consultation, 615-851-1950. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. It's the bottom line, folks. You got to go ahead and make the appointment to get your heater checked with Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. I encourage you to do this. It is a strong possibility that something will go wrong over the winter months unless you do this. And I understand it's September, and I understand it's still 85 degrees outside. I also understand in about a month from now, you'll be wanting to turn that thing on, and you'll smell that smell. And if you have not gone to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, you'll smell the smell. It's dust and dander burning off of your coils. You don't want that. You need the thing cleaned. Make sure that your family is healthy and safe, and make sure that your unit is operating properly. Plus, obviously, if the AC has a problem, Jeff Eddy is still ready to come and fix what ails your AC system. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Give him a call today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net.
Not what you want during lunch hour. Got a crash blocking your way, West End Avenue near 31st Avenue. And we are getting numbers of casualties from that shooting at the high school just outside of Atlanta. We'll share the details coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Yes, monitoring that situation, and we're going to Ken moments from now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. I have some thoughts, and I'm going to share them with you after Ken Weaver's newscast about Kamala Harris's accent. It reminds me of my accent when I get around my grandpa. When I got around my grandfather had a thick Southern accent that would remind everyone of Foghorn Leghorn. When I talk about my grandfather or I speak like Pa spoke, I speak in a fashion where people think I'm mimicking Foghorn Leghorn. I'm mimicking my grandfather because he talked like this.
I say,
That's
son.
the way he talked. Boy, get off it. Boy, get that ball out of your mouth. You're louder than two skeletons clattering on two skeletons fighting on a tin roof. Get out of this house, boy. He spoke
You
like
show your butt again, and it's going to be on.
Going to be Red Moon Rising. Pa would get on it. So, I mean, and when I got around Pa, I would slide back into that accent no matter how old I was. And I wish I could slide into it this very moment because it would mean that he would be here. So I get it, but what she's doing is pandering, pure and simple. We'll talk about that coming up in a moment. Plus, Vivek Ramaswamy has this fire audio from CNN this morning in which he explained that Kamala Harris not only took certain positions on certain issues, she led on those positions on those issues, which owes a response as to why she has changed her position on so many issues. We're getting into that in just a moment. Right now, it's 31 after the hour's time for Ken Weaver in the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver with your top stories. Going to tell you how long this San Diego-type weather is going to hang around in Middle Tennessee during the full forecast in 5 minutes. But right now, out of Georgia, the news is not getting better. CNN now is quoting sources saying at least 4 people have been killed in the shooting at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. This is about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta. Phil Lipoff says about 1,900 students attend this school, and a heavy law enforcement presence is there.
17-year-old Sergio Caldera, a senior, spoke with us over the phone and gave us a very disturbing account of what happened. He heard gunshots at about 11:01 in his chemistry class, and some teacher came in and said, lock the door. They locked the door. They ran to the back of the classroom. They were frightened, obviously, because there were reports of an active shooter. Then he heard banging on the classroom door.
And again, CNN citing sources, it says, confirming 4 killed in this shooting at Appalachian High School just outside of Atlanta. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference today in Jerusalem as he faces growing pressure to secure a deal to release the remaining hostages held in Gaza. The Prime Minister says Israeli forces cannot leave the corridor and still achieve the country's goal of the war.
I said I'm willing to make a deal. The real obstacle to making a deal is not Israel. And it's not me. It's Hamas. It's Sinwar.
Sinwar, as in Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind behind the attack on Israel on October 7th that murdered nearly 1,200 Israelis and left 250 kidnapped, 40 Americans among the dead, a dozen Americans taken hostage. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, folks. Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. Erica and J.K. Brister are owners of U.S. Pest. I love that name because they love their country so much. As a matter of fact, every billboard you might see around town in Middle Tennessee, you'll see the American flag on top of those billboards. That's their belief in the United States of America. But they also believe that you should live a life free of bugs. And, you know, bugs, they're very different than us, but they like the same things that we like, huh? If it's hot outside, they like it to be cool. If it's cold outside, they like it to be warmer. If it's raining outside, they want to be in your house. I mean, everything that they want, you want, and that's in your house. You need to keep them out of your house. These little communists are trying to get in. You do that with U.S. Pest. Full-service pest control, termite protection, crawl space service, all available for you in your home. All you need to do is make the call that so many others have made for a free inspection, uspest.com. That's uspest.com, or make the call 590-1260, 615-590-1260. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only U.S. Pest.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com. All right, friends, here we go. It's 12:37. We continue the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. I'm your humble host, executive producer of this radio show. He screens your telephone calls and, generally speaking, makes sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. We call him Headless Bell lovingly. He is Bell K. Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak, obviously covering the breaking news story out of Winder, Georgia, a high school there under assault. 4 believed to be dead now. That is the count. That count is potentially going to change throughout the course of the afternoon. We live in an era of time where we get breaking news at our fingertips. We don't wait hours or days to find out this information. We find it out in moments. But with that, we carry the caveat that sometimes this information is fluid and can change. Sometimes erroneous information filters through or whatnot in these breaking news stories. But the bottom line is this. Out of Winder, Georgia, there is a breaking news story involving a shooting at Alpha. I forgot the name of the high school, but the high school over there in Winder, where 4 people are believed to be dead. Appalachia, thank you. Some 30 injured, and the nature of those injuries unclear. And understand, Obviously, it can go from worst case scenario, someone is injured because they were shot, or it can move from there to an injury involving someone being trampled while people try to get out of the high school, someone falling and spraining their ankle. That could be an associated injury, or just general trauma, stress relating to a panic attack involving the fact that a school was attacked by an assailant with a gun. So one way or the other, we're following that. Hey, Bell, do you have an ability? Well, I don't know how long he's going to be speaking on this. The Attorney General, for what it's worth, is currently speaking, Merrick Garland, and I believe that he is speaking on this issue of the school shooting. Pull this up and see if that's the case. I don't know if it's the case or not, but see if you can jip this, join it in progress, and see if the. I don't think he's talking on it. Is he?
I'm devastated for the families who have been affected.
I am getting
by
no
this
audio.
terrible tragedy.
You got no audio from it? Okay.
The Justice Department stands.
All right, well, one way or the other, we will update you as information becomes available on what's going on there. In the meantime, Eric is in Jasper with a thought on Kamala Harris. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Matt. Oh, by the way, Ani said hello. What gets me is they're pandering to all the Southerners or blacks or whatever they want to call it. She sounds like a total idiot. But when is she going to start pandering to her other side, to the Indian side of her? Not the feather, but the dot Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, bad joke on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for her to go, would you like a Slurpee? But when are people going to wake up to this crap? I mean, that's what really bothers me. I mean,
yeah, I don't think, and everyone, and I guess I should correct myself. I tend to agree with John, who said on the Super Talk line that it's not necessarily a Southern accent that she thinks she's doing. I think she thinks she's sounding black when she talks that way.
Yeah, and out there, I was married to a black woman for 10 years. And she says, what is wrong with this fool? I had to ask her, me or Kamala? But she said Kamala. Anyways, she goes, does she think she's trying to fool everybody? It's the same thing that happened to Hildebeest. She did the same exact thing. She comes in and talks about hot sauce in her purse and,
I remember it. I don't feel no ways tired. Yeah, I remember all of that garbage.
Yeah, people almost fell for that crap. Well, this is what's wrong with our society nowadays. People are falling for the stupidest things. And like you said a minute ago, we are in a media media arena where everything is on, and everything comes out within seconds, within minutes, and people listening to this, not doing their own. I learned how to speak one of these days.
There is a difference, and the reason I bring up my grandfather, Eric, and God bless you. Thanks for your call. It's good to hear from you. Tell Ani I said hello as well. That's Eric calling from Jasper, Alabama, one of my old school listeners down in Birmingham, who continues to listen online, as many of you can, on Supertalk 99.7 WTN or on Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. So the reason I bring up my grandfather, there's a difference. When I was around my grandpa, I slid back into the accent that I had when I was a kid, one that I worked out. Now, I still have an accent. Don't get me wrong. I recognize that. I have a Southern accent. And anytime I am disabused of that notion, I travel above the Mason-Dixon line, and I know that I have a Southern accent. So mine is not as pronounced as many. My grandfather had a very pronounced Southern accent. And like I said, sounded very much like Foghorn Leghorn. Boy, get out of here. So I understand what that sounds like, and I grew up in it. Kamala Harris didn't. She grew up, in Canada and in California. To my knowledge, Kamala Harris has not once in her life lived in the South. So apparently her version of I don't know if she's trying to sound black in Detroit, because that's where she did this. She gave the same stump speech in Detroit as she gave in, I believe it was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, she talked in a normal cadence. In Detroit, she did that. You better think a union member. whatever the hell she was doing. When you think about that 40-hour work week, you better thank a union member. I don't know what that is. But the White House was asked about it, and they didn't think much of the question, but the question was asked.
Since when does the vice president have what sounds like a Southern accent?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is...
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that you think...
Same line...
Okay, Peter.
That she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a Southern drawl.
Do you hear the question that you're...
You know, if Peter Ducey weren't happily married and Karine Jean-Pierre wasn't gay, I think those two would get along. I think they could go out on a dinner date. Ken, does she really not know what he's talking about?
No, she knows exactly what he's talking about.
Of course she does.
They all know.
They all know, and they just pretend that they don't know because they don't want to...
I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care...
All right, I'm going to answer the question that she posed because Peter Ducey was not in a position to answer that question. I think that's an important question. I think it's an important question to pose to the listening audience of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Regardless of your politics, is that an important question? Is it important to you that Kamala Harris is faking an accent in front of certain people? Would it bother you? Let's pretend like cameras don't follow her around everywhere. Do you believe if someone is willing to pull off or try to pull off that phony baloney, whether it's a kind of a Southern accent, a black accent, whatever she's trying to do? I don't know what she's trying to do. I don't know what was inside of her head when she did it. But someone that's willing to do that, if they thought that there were no cameras around, Eric was joking around about, kind of the Abu from The Simpsons or Apu, which one is it? Apu with a P? Yeah. Apu as in, what I have to do sometimes
Apu.
Yeah.
I'm going to start watching that Simpsons.
I don't think it's going to make it, Ken. Don't invest in it. I don't think it's going to last. I don't think it's going to.
I give that show 35 seasons at best.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it's going to last over, 35, 40 years. Anyway, Apu. Well, they pulled Apu. There's no more Apu because the guy doing the voice decided he didn't want to do the voice anymore because he's white and he was doing an Indian voice and somehow that was cultural appropriation. Anyway, so do you think for a moment if she thought that there was nobody to catch her, that she wouldn't do that in front of an Indian crowd or in front of right? So a person that's willing to do that in Detroit, Michigan, when they know the cameras are rolling, whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously, that to me indicates a level of dishonesty that the American people shy away from. Most sensible American voters. So to answer seriously, and I know that it wasn't a serious question, she's trying to be dismissive. Karine Jean-Pierre is just, it's not in the book, and I'm just going to dismiss this and laugh it off and act as if you're not being a very serious person, Peter Ducey. But of course, it's a serious matter for the American voter.
I mean, do you hear the question that you're... I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care...
Is it important to know or believe in the sincerity of a political candidate before you pull the trigger? Pull the trigger on, or lever. I shouldn't have said trigger. Lever in the voting booth. Is it important to trust the candidate? Isn't that the most important thing? Isn't authenticity the most important thing? I mean, say what you will about Donald Trump, and this is why I think Karine Jean-Pierre is being so dismissive of it. The man is his authentic self, right? He is willing to go in front of the National Association of Black Journalists and get hammered by the questioners and sit there and take it. And he didn't take it lying down either. He gave back as much as he got. He said, look, this is the nastiest, rudest question I think I could possibly imagine, but here you go. Here's an answer to your question. Next question. Well, I thought that was the rudest question I could possibly be asked, but here's another very rude question. I'll answer that one too. And on it goes. And Donald Trump called this during that sit-down. He said she is everything to everyone. Is she black or is she Indian? What is she? I don't know what she is. She claimed she was Indian American when she was winning an election in California. And oh, by the way, she did. The mainstream media declared her the first Indian American to win a U.S. Senate seat in that state in the nation, potentially. But now suddenly when it behooves her, she shifts and she becomes something else. This isn't about how she grew up. This isn't about the lineage of her parents. It's about who she is and what she is willing to do in order to win an election. It's about authenticity. It's about honesty. It's about being yourself and being true to your core beliefs. But I don't believe Kamala Harris has any core beliefs, which is the point. She is willing to do anything or say anything to accomplish the goal of her handlers, which is to get her elected president of the United States.
They care about the economy. They
do care about the economy, something that Kamala Harris switches positions on every time she speaks.
About lowering costs.
They do care about lowering costs, to something that the Biden-Harris administration has forced upwards in the tune of double-digit inflation for most of their presidency.
They care about health care.
They do care about health care, something that has been exacerbated by Obamacare and is being made worse by the Biden-Harris administration. You're right.
That's what Americans care about.
I agree with you.
That's what they want to hear. They care about, your colleague just asked me about, what basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's what they care about. I'm not even going to entertain some question about the president. It's just, hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
Hearing it sounds so ridiculous. Isn't it interesting how sometimes you get the truth? With someone who just spent a minute of our time attempting to avoid the truth, that you finally get to the truth. And she knew it when she said it. She had achieved the truth. Hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
The question, I'm talking about the questions.
No. We heard what you said, Corrine. You said...
Some question about the president. It's just, hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Yes, for the American people, hearing this ridiculous accent sounds absurd. You are correct. You'll hear from Vivek Ramaswamy as promised coming up next. It's 12:51. This is the Libertarian Lunch on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, and I certainly encourage you to do so, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. You'll see my flowing locks coming out of the back of my hat. They are flowing in part thank you to We Grow Hair and the PAI medical folks. Did you know that you can lose up to 50% of your hair before you realize it? It's true. And that comes in the form of hair follicles thinning and shrinking and getting smaller. So literally the stalk of hair, if you think about a stalk of corn, that's kind of like hair grows. A stalk of hair grows smaller and smaller and smaller before eventually the follicle cannot produce hair at all. Well, if you want to stop this, wherever you are in the process, We Grow Hair and the PAI medical people, they're on your team. I'm receiving the FDA-approved laser treatment. It makes my hair grow thicker and fuller. It makes sure that that stalk that I talked about is as big as it possibly can be, and it makes certain that I'm not going to lose any of my hair down the road. But if you've already lost some of your hair, or if you've lost all of it, did you know that there are options still available for you? We Grow Hair is the only clinic in Nashville with all of the proven medical solutions, including the Artis FUE hair transplant procedure. Guaranteed results. Give them a call today at 615-376-6010, 376-6010, or go to WeGrowHair.com. That's WeGrowHair.com.
Got a crash in Williamson County. The center 3 lanes are blocked, 65 southbound right before Cool Springs Boulevard. And we're getting more numbers of those possibly killed in today's school shooting. Details at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
In mere moments, we'll hear from Ken Weaver and his newscast during the 1 o'clock hour, and we'll get back to it on the phone, 615-737-9986. If you'd like to give us a call and offer your opinion on the news of the day, we'll talk a little IVF coming up in the next hour. I also promised you some delicious Vivek Ramaswamy audio, and I will deliver said same. He was on fire this morning on #NeverCNN. I call it #NeverCNN because it is typically a garbage network full of garbage people. Hey, speaking of garbage networks full of garbage people, did you hear who's coming back to CNN, Bell?
The potato?
The potato.
Yes.
The potato's back. All
Ranch,
right.
man, some ranch dressing. Get us some croutons and some bacon bits.
My goodness.
Some cheese.
I put some barbecue on top of there.
Oh, yeah.
Pig.
You don't go wrong putting anything on a potato.
Pig in the potato patch. Oh, man. That's right. The man himself. Brian still blocked me on Twitter. Brian Stelter blocks me on Twitter. I can't believe it. Well, we'll talk about that next. Ken Weaver with the news coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And the traffic is showing red where that crash is, blocking the center 3 lanes of 65 southbound before Cool Springs Boulevard. That means it is getting backed up. And right now in Georgia,
we're in the process of reunifying our students with their parents. Obviously, that's chaotic, but we want to be respectful of them and their privacy as well.
That's Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith outside Appalachian High School, where there has been a shooting today. Phil Lipoff, who recounts what one student said he heard and saw when he was barricaded in his chemistry classroom.
Then he heard banging on the classroom door as they were huddled up. And he believed it was the shooter trying to get in. Once the shooter, or what he believed was a shooter, couldn't get in, he heard more gunshots and more screaming, what he thought was the class next door.
So unofficially, we have reports of 2 to 4 killed, and at least one suspect is in custody. Appalachian High School is in Winder, Georgia. That's about 45 miles outside of Atlanta. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference today in Jerusalem as he faces growing pressure to secure a deal to release the remaining hostages held in Gaza. The Prime Minister says Israeli forces cannot leave that corridor and still achieve the country's goals of the war in Gaza.
Leaving Philadelphia does not advance the release of the hostages because the deal cannot be advanced. They'll give you a minor part. If they give anything.
U.S. in the midst of drafting yet another ceasefire proposal. And right now in Middle Tennessee, Nashville comes in the top 50 most congested cities in the world, according to a recent ranking on traffic. It measures how much time you were spending in traffic post-pandemic. And Jim Ryan has a few of the details.
The INRIX Global Traffic Scorecard has New York City at the top of the traffic jam list, followed by Mexico City, London, Paris, and Chicago. The study is proof that time really is money. The typical U.S. driver is losing $733 in productivity per year to traffic jams.
Now, that's $985 per person here in Nashville. Nashville ranks as the 39th most traffic congested city in the world, 12th in the U.S., 56 hours lost a year in traffic. And money news. The number of job openings in the U.S. is down. American employers posted fewer job openings in July than they did in June, indicating that fewer companies are seeking to add workers. Layoffs were up slightly. The jobs picture will be one of many things the Fed uses when it decides how much to lower interest rates later this month. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Your Health Plan Man and YourHealthPlanMan.com. Pat Davis is Your Health Plan Man. Did you know that there is an inexpensive alternative for Obamacare? There is an inexpensive alternative for those without a health care plan right now, and all it takes is a telephone call to Pat Davis. Now, Pat does not pitch specific insurance companies. He has access to all of them. That is an advantage for you. When you talk to Pat, he becomes your personal healthcare concierge. He'll talk to you about your needs. He will find the right program for you. He will get the right specific aspects to that healthcare package together for you, and then he'll offer it up for you for your consideration. Did you know that there are plans that don't cover things like abortion? There are plans that don't cover things like maternity leave. Because if you're 60 years old, why would you need that? Friends, there's an option for you that is less expensive than what you're currently dealing with. So I encourage you to go to YourHealthPlanMan.com to find out more. That's YourHealthPlanMan.com for more information, or give Pat or his team a call today at 855-4-PLAN-MAN, 855-475-2662. They'll treat you better at YourHealthPlanMan.com. All right, here we go, friends. Hour number 2, Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, my name is Matt Murphy. Glad to have you with us. It is 1:07. We are following a story out of Winder, Georgia. It is breaking news. A high school there in Winder had a mass shooting earlier today. We know that 4 are dead, according to multiple sources and multiple reports coming out of Winder, Georgia, and about 30 individuals are hurt. We do not have the nature of those injuries. In some cases, one would expect that those injuries are due to individuals trying to get away from the shooting. At least one person has been airlifted to a trauma center in Atlanta. Winder is, I believe it's northeast. I know Winder. I've been to Winder. I have spent time in Winder. A friend of mine that I went to college with in Carrollton, Georgia, grew up in Winder, and I would be surprised if that friend did not actually go to school at that high school there. But 4 are dead out of Winder, at least, and one has been airlifted to a trauma center, and roughly 30 individuals hurt in that situation. Expect the usual suspects to say the usual things with regard to guns and gun control efforts. One would expect that Kamala Harris would be out jiffy quick on the stump, attempting to convince the American people that the answer to some of these issues would be in limiting our access, law-abiding citizens' access to guns. That is not the answer. The gun did not kill those people. It was the evil intent behind the gun and the shooter themselves that pulled the trigger that killed these folks in Georgia. At the same time, the world is a dangerous place. It seems more dangerous than ever. I'm going to pull back and talk for a moment about a subject that we brought up yesterday in the aftermath of the manifesto being, I did it again. I'm trying to stop calling it that. This was a journal. This was not by any definition a manifesto, but the Covenant School shooter. Michael Patrick Leahy, who made an appearance yesterday afternoon on The Drive with Brian Wilson, and we'll have Michael Patrick on very soon to kind of talk about the fallout behind his decision on the Tennessee Star website to release the full journal that he had access to some months ago. He legally, and he stresses this, legally obtained the access of that journal. He recorded the journal by taking photos of each page of it. He does not have the actual journal in his hands, but he has we have the photos. We downloaded the journal, and I looked at it not only yesterday, but also looked over it last night. And I can tell you there really are there's no motivation in the journal that has been presented by the Tennessee Star, except to say that the person writing it, the woman writing it, was insane. There was evil, and there was a tremendous amount of evidence of mental instability. And a lot of that mental instability was borne out in writings about a belief that she was born in the wrong body, that she should have had a penis, that she should have been a boy, that there was nothing to be done about that. And that created this anxiety and ultimately a desire to die, which sadly led to a desire to kill. And all of that manifested itself on March 27th when the shooter went to Covenant School, where she attended school, and committed to mass slaughter, killing 3 9-year-olds and 3 staff members, as we well know. It was a series of events that might have been avoided had someone had the foresight to recognize that the person in front of them, and I'm talking about medical professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists. Over the years, apparently, Audrey Hale sat down in front of many psychologists, many psychiatrists. In totality, she had seen therapists for over 20 years, and she was only, I think, 28 years old when she died, when she was killed by the Metro Nashville Police Department after killing 6 herself. That said, there were clues. I don't want to create a dynamic by which we judge people based on hindsight, because with hindsight, it's easy. However, it seems that there were many, many clues available to those medical professionals to give them the ability to do something to involuntarily incarcerate this individual, to get her a full-throated medical evaluation. All that to say, it was the heart and the mind of the individual that led to the deaths of those 6 at the Covenant School. I don't know. None of us sitting in Nashville, Tennessee, are aware of the motivations behind. We don't know the suspect behind those that were killed in Georgia and Winder, except to say that that person is in custody. We're told by authorities, and at very least, they have killed 4. More details to come. However, none of that will change the narrative on the left. The narrative on the left, no matter the circumstances, no matter the situation, no matter the details, is always the same. Take the guns from law-abiding citizens, and they tell you that this will result in a reduction in criminal activity around the country. And I don't believe it. The only way that you could possibly accomplish the goal that you claim to want to accomplish would be to reclaim all of the guns available to the United States of America. Bill, would you venture a guess as to how many guns there are in this country?
Well, I don't really need to, because I've kind of educated myself on it, but there's a reasonable expectation of there being between 350 million and 500 million, depending on the sources that you're using.
Yeah, the figure that I typically see is north of 400 million guns in the United States of America. Short guns, long guns, handguns, and rifles, shotguns. Over 400 million. What you will be hearing from the left is this Pollyanna belief, and expect it to come within minutes, if not already, within hours certainly. Kamala Harris will be on the stump, and she will have a lot to say about gun ownership and limiting your ability to own, quote-unquote, assault weapons. They will call them assault weapons. They will call them weapons of war. Tim Walz is well on record lying about his record in the Minnesota National Guard, claiming that these are the type of guns I carried into battle. He never carried any gun into battle because he was never in battle. That does not diminish his service. At the same time, it does say something about his character that he would be willing to lie about it. That said, he's on record. She picked the right candidate for her because they're both gun grabbers, and they believe that gun confiscation is necessary in the United States.
Obviously, not every single person in the country owns a gun, but when we're talking about these kind of numbers, we're looking at an average of about 1.3 to 2 guns per person in this country.
I just looked it up, and I'm seeing on average about 450 million now. So that would be about 1.5 per person in the United States of America. I'm well above average. Thank you very much. And a lot of things, including gun ownership. So you'll see these things. They try to, I was not around during the days of the great Phil Valentine, but my good friend Brink Fiddler, who comes on with regularity, who did know Phil quite well, quotes Phil when he says, emotion brings you to a problem, and logic and reason and rational thought gets you out of it. And emotion will bring Democrats to the table on this issue, and they will make an emotional appeal to the American people that we somehow ought to give up our right to gun ownership, despite the fact that we are law-abiding citizens, because of the actions of criminals. Well, by the same standard, I would suggest that we should limit the ability of law-abiding citizens to go out and drink alcohol for fear. I mean, let's make the comparison. 615-737-9986, by the way, if you want to get in on this conversation. So, is there anything good about the consumption of alcohol? I mean, in other words, can we make a case that alcohol provides any good? I understand that we get a buzz, and I understand that we enjoy it. I'm saying, is there any positive in society for alcohol?
Not to go jumping around on you, but the same people that tell you that we can go and confiscate 450 million weapons and remove them from the street are the same people that telling you that we can't deport 10 million people.
Right, because that's too much of a logistical challenge. I mean, and back to the original thought before I get to the alcohol analogy, you're right, Bell. The premise behind what they argue is that if we were to eliminate guns in society, you would eliminate the ability for people to go on mass shooting sprees. We see right before us in other societies, in Germany, in the United Kingdom, and in Australia, how a lack of an ability to access a gun does not prevent mass deaths or mass killings. So the only argument that they can possibly make, even if we got to that point in American society, would be, well, we would limit the ability. And by the way, did you see the story overseas? I think it was either UK or Germany, where a German official was talking about limiting the ability for people to have access to long knives.
Oh, that's already a reality in Britain. They've gone from common sense gun control to common sense knife control.
Because there are too many people committing knife attacks now, because it's the knife.
If you're found in possession of a bladed weapon of certain parameters, that's an arrestable offense.
Right.
In Great Britain.
So, I mean, one would think at some point they would see, these people would see the own fallacy of their logic, but they don't see it. They're blind to it. So not only would it take wholesale confiscation of your weapons, where people are literally knocking on your door and demanding to see your guns, and then taking said same in order for their dream to become a reality on the political left. Not only would it take that, which would be an impossibility in the United States of America, I might add, it would also take, or it wouldn't even work, even if they were able to do it. It wouldn't work, right? I mean, because those with evil intent in their hearts would use other methods by which to kill, be it automobile, knife, homemade bomb or explosive, or black market gun, for that matter. Now, the gun analogy leads to the alcohol analogy. Does any good come from alcohol? Well, I mean, you could argue that, I enjoy it, I get a buzz from it. Okay, fine, sure. But some people use alcohol in bad ways. Some people drink large amounts of alcohol and beat their spouses or get into domestic altercations. Other people drink large amounts of alcohol and get behind the wheel of a car and drive an automobile impaired. And eventually it leads to a DUI, ruined lives, ruined families. Or it could lead to the death of another person due to that individual being impaired and having an accident and killing another person on our city streets. Happens all the time. So by the logic of the left, why would we not eliminate the consumption of alcohol in restaurants because of the bad actors that cannot handle their liquor or choose to drink large amounts of alcohol than get behind the wheel of a car. Tell me how that's not the same. Now, it's different in the sense that there is a written right within the Constitution of the United States of America that we have the ability to keep and bear arms as the ultimate protection against bad or evildoers or a tyrannical government. We have that ability as written down in the Second Amendment. But we also have life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and I would suggest within that is embedded our ability to consume alcohol. But tell me how it's different. Oh, we had a constitutional ban on the use of alcohol. How did that work? You see, we've tried it with alcohol, and this completes the analogy. How did that work? Did it get better or worse when we banned the consumption of alcohol in the United States of America? I think we know the answer. Your thoughts on the way next. It's 121 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Defend Systems is a sponsor of the Matt Murphy Radio Show, and I tell you quite often, and today is no different, what with the mass shooting happening in Georgia, that life is dangerous, and we live in a dangerously developing world, and you need to be trained and plan on the possibility, remote as it might be, that you might experience an active violent or an active shooter situation in your lifetime. Violence happens every day in the United States of America, and sadly, these active shooters happen. What would your response be? The real-world answer is not to take all of the guns. The real-world answer is to prepare yourself through emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response medical training, site surveys and threat assessment, security improvement consultation, all available for your facility. So if you are a manager, if you're an owner, if you engage in public activity on any level, if you're a decision maker at a school or at a place of business or a church, it's time to get trained. I understand the possibilities are low, but hope is not a plan. Let's get trained with Defend Systems today. They can help. DefendSystems.com is the website, DefendSystems.com, or call them today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Defend Systems.
All right, I'm still showing that crash blocking the center 3 lanes of 65 southbound right before Cool Springs Boulevard there in Franklin. And we'll get you the very latest on this school mass shooting in Georgia coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Good to have Ken in the afternoon hours with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good to hear Joan Jones in the morning as well on Nashville's Morning News and beyond. I'm excited about having Joan on the team. She comes from Washington, D.C., and man, what a great resume and what a great person she is. We had a chance to meet Joan when she first got into town, and it's just a wonderful blessing to have her on Nashville's Morning News and a blessing to have Ken Weaver in the afternoon hours. On the newscast, on the job, top and bottom of the hour, I am rededicating myself because you guys know me. I am Mr. On Time when it comes to that bottom of the hour news.
Yes, sir.
And I listen to Weaver all the time. And Weaver in the mornings, I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but Ken Weaver will tell you when it is 1:30 on the dot. That's what he says. And he'll tell you when it's 2 o'clock on the dot. And I don't want to make a liar out of Weaver. So I'm going to do my best to be on time. How about that, Ken? That's for you, buddy.
I like that, Brother Murphy. Yes, sir.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll do our best. I'm not saying we'll do it. We'll do what we can. I get diarrhea of the mouth, as my grandma used to say. You got the diarrhea of the mouth. So Ray wants to know, is your nose getting long? What, Ray? You listeners, don't Benedict Arnold me, Ray. Is your nose getting longer? I hit the bottom of the hour newscast all the time, right on time. I'm never 3 minutes late, ever. There's a suspect in custody after the Georgia high school shooting, and according to authorities, he is very much alive. I almost said something I probably shouldn't say, but, well, the hell with it. Sadly, he's alive. Or she, I don't know. We don't know. Typically, in these mass shooting situations, it is a male shooter. That is not exclusively the domain of males, as we found out intimately in Nashville, Tennessee at the Covenant school shooting. So I don't want to presume things, but the individual responsible for the death of at least 4, potentially more, alive and in custody. So we'll continue updating you on that story. Wayne is in Nashville with a thought on gun confiscation. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, how you doing today, Matt?
Doing well, Wayne.
Well, the gun confiscation part is ludicrous. Of course, I'm a Second Amendment person. I was an instructor for the Tennessee handgun permits for about 12 years. Taught taught security, home security and personal defense. But I do have the knife thing is what really piqued my interest when you were talking about Great Britain and Germany, because I was over in England, in London, a few years ago, and I always have a little pocket knife I'd carry with me in case you want to open up a package or, you bought something, you had to get it out of the wrapper or whatever. And so me and some friends of mine, we were going to the London Eye to the big Ferris wheel looking thing they got over there. And one of the security guys asked me, is that a knife in your pocket? Because I was wearing blue jeans and you could just see a little bit of an imprint. It was a small little Gerber. And I was like, yeah, sure. He asked to see it. I showed it to him. He goes, well, you can't have this. Well, I'm talking a little knife that closed was probably not even 2.5 inches long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, you can't have this. And I was like, really? Well, can I get it back when I get down off the ride? He goes, no. He says, these are illegal here in
What, like
England.
illegal in the country?
Yes. It
Wow.
was a lock blade, because it was a lock blade knife. You could not have a lock blade knife. It was illegal. Regardless of the size, you couldn't have it.
Wow.
So he took me over to the side and filled out some paperwork on me and told me, says, well, if you ever come back to England and you get in trouble or, you get stopped or checked or whatever, you can be deported. And I was like, okay, that's the way you treat your tourist here, I mean, and so,
Wow.
I've worked in the industry for years, like I said, as an instructor and whatnot. And see, that just goes to show that if they get what they want with guns here, like they did in England and like they did in Australia,
It's not going to stop. Not going to stop.
Then they're going to start going after it. Because, see, you can't even carry You over there. Let's say you're a chef.
Well, I can't do that now because I got to get to the news as promised because it's 1:30, Wayne. But we'll do it next time. I appreciate the call. Great points that you made, and we'll give you some thoughts on that on the other side. It's 1:30 on Super Talk.
$1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes, and right now in Georgia.
Never in a million years I would have thought anything would happen like this.
A terrified parent who says her son is safe after a shooting at Appalachian High School in Winder. It's about 45 miles east of Atlanta.
His coach had ended up blocking his door and locking the door to prevent the shooter from coming in his classroom.
So we're seeing reports of at least 4 killed and more than 30 hurt in that shooting at Appalachian High School outside of Atlanta. 1 person in custody. About 1,900 students attend there. Here in Middle Tennessee, the TBI confirms agents executed a search warrant on the Millersville Police Department this morning. They say it's part of an ongoing investigation. Channel 4 says it's unclear if this investigation has anything to do with a number of controversies, including allegedly allowing uncertified people to wear police identification. There's been turmoil in city leadership in which the former city manager, police chief, and fire chief were all terminated in Millersville. And recently, the assistant police chief, Sean Taylor, has faced scrutiny for his alleged conspiracy theories documented on YouTube. Another car maker set to reshuffle its electric vehicle plans. Mike Dubusky has that story.
Volvo now says by 2030, at least 90% of its sales will come from EVs or plug-in hybrids, a softening of its earlier target.
Volvo was promising 2030 would be fully battery electric vehicles.
Tony Quiroga is the editor-in-chief of Car and Driver. He says while EVs now account for a bigger slice of the market than ever before, the pace of adoption has slowed down.
Customers aren't quite moving to EVs as quickly as everyone had anticipated.
J.D. Power estimates EV sales will make up 9% of the new car market by the end of 2024. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Years ago, when Dr. Gill and the Dr. Gill Center first opened their doors 30-plus years ago, a chiropractic center was really spinal in nature. It was bone in nature. Now, many, many things have changed. In almost 40 years, Dr. Gill has brought the technological advances that have changed those things in Nashville and Middle Tennessee and beyond. I mean, spinal decompression was just the start of it all. But they did bring spinal decompression in Middle Tennessee, and proudly so, to help alleviate the pain that you experience in your back, lower, middle, and upper. They've also brought other technologies to town, like the Class 5 laser system. They've got it. The red light therapy, they've got that as well. East M, they'll take care of that for you, too. All designed to reduce pain, reduce swelling, accelerate healing, and to make you feel better without having to pop pills, without having to take needles, without having to consider surgery. So where do you hurt? Is it back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain? Wherever it hurts, the Dr. Gill Center can help. A team approach, Dr. Wendy, Dr. V, Dr. Dominic, they're all there for you, waiting for your call. Schedule an appointment today. I know you'll be glad that you did. Call at 615-882-4838. 882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, conveniently located in Franklin.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Promised Vivek audio upcoming. Plus, Attorney General Merrick Garland today speaks about Russian interference. I couldn't even get through it. Let me start again. Doo-doo. Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Attorney General Merrick, I couldn't get through it. Let me try it one more time. Doo-doo. Matt Murphy here. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States of America, has announced that there is believed to be Russian interference in our election processes.
Can I say something that should be obvious?
Is she losing that bad? Is she losing that bad? Must be. Yeah, what?
The Russians have interfered in our elections since the late 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
And no one cared until they were told to.
Mm-mm. You got it. Yes. Foreign agents have attempted to interfere with American elections every time we've held American elections. Yes. Mm-hmm. Did they interfere in 2020? Apparently they did. But you don't hear much about that because, according to the mainstream media, the right guys won.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
It's just ridiculous the way they act like this is a modern phenomenon, though.
I want you to listen. No. Merrick is very concerned with it. Let's listen in as our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, has a few things to say about interference.
Power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda. The company never disclosed to the, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's sorry. He's got to get to his right page here.
And that is what we alleged happened in this case.
Oh, okay. So apparently his handlers had to get him on the right page, literally and figuratively on the right page.
It's all in the processes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. They are behaving badly. And apparently Kamala Harris is losing badly because they're pulling out the Russia page from the playbook from 2016.
Not to get too far off subject, but does he have that same vocal disease that RFK has?
You know, I don't know. He's got something going on there.
Because they both kind of have that wavery, kind of quivering voice.
Yeah, but it's almost, you know what? I just
Sounds
realized
like Betty Davis.
It's almost Jimmy Stewart. Yeah. Had a dog named Bo. Anyway.
Mr. Gower.
What was it, Mr. Gower?
Yes, Mr. Gower slapped him upside the head because he didn't tell him he put the wrong medicine in the bottle at
Mr.
first.
Gower. Vicini. Tell him, Vicini. You've seen me. You know me. Bedford Falls. Okay, so back to more serious matters. We're switching back and forth between having a good time this afternoon and dealing with this shooting over in Winder. Winder is, and I got my bearings about me. I lived in Athens for the better part of a year. I lived in Atlanta for the better part of 6 months. And Winder is roughly right between Atlanta and Athens in Georgia. It's rough. It's a rough estimate, but that gives you an idea. If you see Atlanta there and Athens is to the east, you'll about 70 miles or thereabouts to the east. Winder's positioned right there in the middle. So one could loosely define Winder as a suburb of the greater metropolitan area of Atlanta. I would suggest it is a bedroom community outside of the city of Atlanta. That said, we believe 4 are dead. And Ken, if I'm reading this correctly, authorities are now indicating that it is believed to be a 14-year-old male subject.
I have not seen that, but I do know that they do have a suspect, but I haven't seen the age of the suspect yet, Brother Murphy.
I do. I have 2 separate reports from media outlets, and I'll trust it enough to say that it is believed to be a 14-year-old male suspect in custody. More coming up on that as information becomes available. 141, almost 142, Super Talk 99.7 WT. And speaking of audio, I promised you this, and I'll deliver. So Vivek Ramaswamy this morning talking about Kamala Harris and her changing and shifting positions. It was the theme of the opening monologue of the show today. Is the media going to sit idly by and allow Kamala Harris to change her position on every issue? And it's not just that she held positions on these issues. She led on these issues during her time in the United States Senate. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy speaking about this morning on CNN.
You brought up some claims about Kamala Harris. I want to finish that discussion. She said she didn't favor a ban on fracking now. The reality is she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her health care plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris has not.
So there's Vivek Ramaswamy, absolute fire on CNN this morning. The anchor, and I forget her name, consistently wanting to weigh in during his commentary, during his monologue there, but she gave him about a minute of unfettered access to the airwaves of CNN, and he destroyed Kamala Harris and destroyed the mainstream media in the process, and that is the entire point. It is not that Kamala Harris has changed her position on these issues. People are allowed, as Vivek said, and I agree, you're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change your position on issues. It happens every day with us, right? I mean, your core beliefs ought not change, but if your position on any given issue on any given day might, and frankly, we are allowed as consumers of the political product to feel differently about specific issues with candidates that we support. I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, I offered my thoughts on IVF. And I understand IVF is very expensive, and I wish it were not so. But I do not believe that it is an appropriate solution for the government to mandate to insurance companies that they must provide IVF. Donald Trump came out in favor of that position over the weekend, saying we need more babies in America. We need more babies born in America. We need to provide for these families that want to have children when these IVF treatments cost so much. I just disagree functionally with the idea that it is a government responsibility to mandate that a private individual and a private company have to abide by certain mandates sent down from the government and Washington, D.C. I just disagree with that. I think there's a free market solution that will act in the better interest of the American consumer. But that doesn't mean that I disagree with Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that I might disagree with Donald Trump. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go against his candidacy or think any less of him. We simply disagree on that one singular issue. We agree on 99% of the issues in front of the American people. So I'm not suggesting Donald Trump evolved on that issue, but it is a new take on his part. But that doesn't mean that I move away from him. It's okay if Kamala Harris evolves on the issue of fracking. It's just fine if she evolves on the issue of immigration. But I don't know that anyone is actually buying that she has evolved. She said in the interview last week with CNN, the Dana Bash Softball Fest, that she hasn't changed, that her core position and her core principles have not changed. How can you say that? This is what they're trying to get away with. The surrogates in the Harris-Walz team suggest to the media that she has changed her position on fracking, her hardline position. She has changed her position on offshore drilling. She has changed her position on corporate greed and even changed her position after changing her position on the issue of price gouging or price controls, that she has changed her position on energy policy generally. She has changed her position on the Green New Deal and on energy policies consistent with, quote-unquote, mitigating climate change, that she has changed her position on the root causes of mass illegal immigration into the United States of America, that she has changed her position on Israel and Hamas and the causal factors of that conflict going on that's led to the death of American citizens, blood on the hands of the Biden-Harris administration, I might add, that she has changed her position on the success and the nature of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. She has changed her position on inflation. She has changed her position on Bidenomics. I mean, you can change and evolve your position depending on what day it is, but you owe the American people a certain level of explanation as to how all of that happened, because it was not that you begrudgingly agreed with Elizabeth Warren. You led the fight in the Senate. It wasn't that you begrudgingly agreed with Bernie Sanders on the issue of single-payer Medicare. You fought for it. You said that you would be in favor of suspending the filibuster in order to achieve it with a simple majority vote of 50+1. Not only as a senator, but also as the vice president who would have cast the tie-breaking vote. You're allowed any position you want on any of these issues. What they expect is that the people that vote for Kamala Harris will be stupid enough not to get an answer where she is on these issues before they go and vote for her. And that's what I don't understand. I have a difficult time understanding what life is like if you are a liberal. I do. I admit it. I have a difficult understanding of why someone would sincerely hold Marxist beliefs or socialist beliefs. But I believe in a country that cherishes liberty and free will so much that you're allowed to believe as you desire in the United States. So it is with political candidates. If you want to run in the state of Tennessee for dog catcher or city councilor or county mayor or state legislator or governor or United States senator, and you claim to be a Marxist communist, okay, good luck with that. Nothing preventing you from presenting their viewpoint, your viewpoint, to the people of the state of Tennessee, and let's see where the chips fall. I mean, hell, we're letting Gloria Johnson run, after all. And what is she but a socialist? But in our system of government, the expectation is that the voters will go armed with information to the polls. And right now, it seems to me, it occurs to me, that the Kamala Harris strategy is to lie, to obfuscate, and expect that stupid people will vote regardless of their self-interest and regardless of how they feel like you are. I mean, in other words, if I am a dyed-in-the-wool socialist, why would I support Kamala Harris if she believes in fracking? If my number one issue is climate change, do I not need to know where she is on this issue? Or do I really know, do I understand the wink and the nod that's going on right now? Inquiring minds want to know. Vivek Ramaswamy destroyed her on CNN, and there was nothing CNN could do about it. Coming up, Cuomo on COVID, plus more on Trump and IVF. That's on the way next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I am so proud to be a part of the Glock store and everything they have brought to Nashville, Tennessee. Since Lenny McGill left California so many years ago and came to Nashville, handpicked by Lenny himself because of the location, because of the awesome citizens just like you, and because of the need. We needed the Glock store as much as the Glock store needs you to stop by and say hello. They've got a beautiful retail space, friendly folks ready to receive you. Any knowledge level whatsoever, they can communicate with you and talk to you. From the most experienced marksman to someone that's never picked up a long gun or a handgun in their lives, they can help. We need to get back to the range together, and I'm ready to do that. As a matter of fact, if you're thinking about stopping by the Glock store, might I recommend you consider the Glock store for your next gathering or party? That's right. The Glock store is a place to party, and all you need to do is call 615-682-6565 for more info about that. Party at the Glock store with a VIP room. You'll get a trainer. You'll get a shooting room. You'll get all sorts of shooting activities available for you. Really, they can tailor it to any of your specifications. You just tell them what you're looking for in a party, and they'll help you party at the Glock store. 615-682-6565. Minutes away from the airport, right off of Elm Hill Pike. Minutes away from the sound of my voice. It's the one and only Glock store.
4 dead in the latest mass shooting. And Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing a crackdown on alleged Russian efforts to interfere with the 2024 election, coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That is in mere seconds with Ken Weaver. So good to hear his voice. Man, oh man, you hear him, he's all inspired because it's afternoon. He didn't have to get up in the middle of the night.
No,
it wasn't.
sir.
I mean, man, oh man. I mean, traffic was a lot worse, as we talked about earlier in the show. By the way, Mr. Weaver.
Real quick question. What time were you having to get up when you were doing mornings?
2 o'clock.
I'm sorry. That's a bedtime. That's not a wake up call.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't mean to complain about what we do because I love what I do. I'm blessed to get an opportunity to speak to the folks of this listening audience, Middle Tennessee, every single day. And I think you feel the same way, Ken.
Oh, yes, sir. I do.
But
I love this audience.
But I will say I did morning radio for almost 10 years. Now, I did not have to go on air at 5 like Nashville's Morning News. I was on air at 6 a.m. However, you never get used to getting up at 2:45. That's what time I woke up, 2:45. Yeah. You never get accustomed to it.
No, you don't. And here's the thing. When you say wake up, those were blessings whenever I got to wake up at 2. That's when I actually got to sleep. But a lot of times I was waking up, quote unquote, at like midnight or 12:30. And then by then it's like, what's the use?
There's nothing more frustrating. I remember my days in Birmingham when you have to get out of bed at 3:15 in the morning or whatever it is. And you wake up and you look at the clock and it's 2. And you're like, no! I'm going to be up for the next 20 minutes. And then I get to sleep by the time the alarm goes off.
Yeah.
So, no, my question was, have you seen this new movie, Reagan? Anybody?
I have not seen that.
I haven't either. Have you seen the still photos of Dennis Quaid, though? Man, he looks like Reagan. If you've not seen, oh, yeah, he looks good. Look at some of the photos. We're going to talk about it in the next hour. If you've seen Reagan, give me a call because I want to know your report, your full review on The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes, but right now in Georgia, Michelle Franzen with the very latest from that shooting at a high school.
Law enforcement sources telling ABC News 4 people have been killed in the shooting in Appalachia High School in Weiner today, about an hour outside Atlanta. A person also in custody believed to be a student. 20 others injured. The type of their injuries, though, still unknown. Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith says the investigation is very active.
It's very active and is ever developing. Every minute it's developing on what we're finding.
Some students speaking out already about the harrowing moments. Alexandra, a sophomore, when gunfire broke out.
I was scared. I had so much fear. Like, I'm still shaking. Like, I was so scared.
And one mother says her son's coach told her that he jumped into action.
His coach had ended up blocking his door and locking the door to prevent the shooter from coming in his classroom.
Again, 4 people dead following today's shooting.
Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage on air and online. Right now in Middle Tennessee, the bullet-riddled home of a Wilson County pastor is the subject of an investigation. Channel 4 says Global Vision Bible Church pastor Greg Locke's home in Mount Juliet was hit by between 30 and 50 bullets. Locke told investigators he returned home with his family last night, found that it had been shot at by a, quote, madman. The Wilson County Sheriff's Office said Locke's son was home at the time but was not injured. Election 2024 Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing an election interference task force crackdown on Russian influence.
Over the next several weeks, task force representatives will be on the ground meeting with election workers. And in early November, both in advance of and after Election Day, the FBI will be hosting federal partners at its headquarters command center.
Yeah, Garland announced an indictment filed against at least 2 people, also a crackdown on fake websites he said that Russian entities were using to interfere with the election. Another car maker adjusting its strategy around electric vehicles. Mike Dubusky has more on that.
Volvo had said it planned to sell nothing but EVs by the year 2030, but now, says Tony Quiroga, editor-in-chief of Car and Driver,
they're backing off from full electrification in 2030, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a ton of electric cars.
That means hybrid Volvos will stick around through the end of the decade, and Quiroga says it comes as the pace of electric vehicle adoption is slowing.
Transition's just taking a little bit longer, but the transition's still happening.
J.D. Power estimates EV sales will make up 9% of the new car market by the end of 2024. And real quick, here in Tennessee, the Tennessean says a majority of workers at the Ultium Cells EV battery plant in Spring Hill have signed cards to unionize, and the company agreed to recognize it without a vote. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Are you feeling sluggish, gentlemen? Do you not have the energy you once had? Have you noticed that this is a pattern where you feel like you ought to have the energy, but you simply do not? Might I suggest to you that it could be low T levels? I don't know that to be the case, but I know who can find out, and that is, of course, Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic doesn't want to get into your business, but they will ask a few questions regarding your business, whether it's bedroom activity or energy to go to the gym, motivation to get out and do yard work. I mean, if you've lost that energy, that vitality, that drive, that want to, guys, you can get this back. It doesn't have to be a matter of losing it and just throwing your hands up and say, well, I guess that aspect of my life is over. No, don't do this. The biggest complaint that men have after leaving Tennessee Men's Clinic, after getting on a program, after approaching this with an attitude of success, is that they didn't do it sooner. That's the biggest complaint. I should have done this a year or two before I did it. It's not going to go away on its own. Gentlemen, let's get it handled with the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to Tennessee Men's Clinic to find out more online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or give them a call at 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. It is 2:06. Glad to have you with us on this Wednesday. Feels like a Tuesday because of the holiday Monday. Is everyone confused? I am. Lots going on today, a lot of breaking news, and we're going to catch you all up to speed if you're just joining us. The Drive with Brian Wilson coming up after we complete our duties at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll speak to said same coming up in a moment. You've heard the voice of Ken Weaver all afternoon long. He's back in afternoons, moving from mornings to afternoons. His choice, Joan Jones in the mornings on Nashville's Morning News, and otherwise providing news and information for you on a bi-hourly basis. Is that right? That's right. Yeah, bi-hourly would be twice an hour. Is that right? Is that right? Do I have confirmation from the Peanut Gallery? Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, that's right.
Bi-hourly. All right, let's get to the breaking news story of the moment. Winder, Georgia, Appalachia High School in Winder. Winder is a small town roughly between Atlanta and Athens, Georgia. 4 have been killed and 9 taken to hospitals as a shooter believed to be, according to CNN, a 14-year-old male. I have that source, and I have another source at Fox News. I don't know if they're getting their information from the same place, but it is believed to be a 14-year-old male that was the shooter at the Georgia High School, Appalachia High School in Winder. 4 killed and 9 taken to the hospital. So we will continue to update you on that story as information comes available. Very sad. Once again, while the minds of many go to, obviously, first and foremost to the family members of those who lost their lives, we understand the tragedy in Nashville. We understand Covenant School was not that long ago. And we still remember and we still discuss the aspects of that case that potentially led someone, in this case, Audrey Hale, busting into the Covenant School and killing innocents. 3 9-year-olds and 3 staff members. We don't know about the nature of the attack in Winder as of yet, but we understand how this will be used from a political perspective. The shooter's not dead. Cade wants to know, is the shooter dead? The shooter is not dead. The shooter is alive and in custody. I'm getting a lot of reaction to bi-hourly, and most everyone who's reacting is saying that Matt Murphy is wrong. And it's
not true. You haven't been wrong since the early 70s.
So these individuals on social media are saying that bi-hourly would be every 2 hours. That semi-hourly is what I mean. It's on the hour, the half hour, and when it breaks. Is that better? Can I do it that way? I think they might be right. I get very confused. But the bicentennial is okay, that's right. Okay, so bi-hourly would be every couple of hours, as the bicentennial would be a couple of 100 years. So, yeah, makes sense to me. Thank you for all of your corrections. Duly noted. 4755 says, well, I'm often wrong, but I'm never in doubt. 4755. That'll work for me every half hour or when it breaks. Ken Weaver on the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I asked a question about Ronald Reagan and the movie about his life. We'll get back to that in just a moment. I want to address this issue quickly and move on from it because I believe the Arlington National Cemetery story involving Donald Trump has always been a non-story. It has always been an effort on the part of the mainstream media to mitigate or diminish the support that Donald Trump enjoys with American veterans. Donald Trump has a healthy support base for American veterans, as demonstrated by the desire for Gold Star mothers and fathers, Gold Star families, to have him at a commemoration ceremony honoring the 13 individuals that lost their lives 3+ years ago in Afghanistan during the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan under the presidency of Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden, there were many in the mainstream media that have had to eat their words in as much as Gold Star families say that Kamala Harris was welcome. They've tried to talk to Kamala Harris for the last 3 years. Nothing. They've tried to talk to Joe Biden for the last 3 years. Nothing. Nothing. In the meantime, Donald Trump accepts an invitation, asks if it is appropriate and all right with the Arlington National Cemetery folks, and receives permission to take a camera along with him to document the event, a photographer along with him to document the event. Sadly, the Biden administration had their lip pooched out because they didn't want to be made to look bad, and so they attempted to prevent Donald Trump from documenting the event. and they're now calling it a politicalization of Arlington National Cemetery, to the point that John McCain's family is now weighing in on all of it. John McCain, obviously war veteran. He spent time, 5 years, as a matter of fact, in a war prison. He was a prisoner of war for 5 full years in Vietnam and suffered great physical and mental anguish as a result. You'll never hear me say one single negative thing about John McCain when it comes to his war service. As far as his service as a United States Senator, I'm not so much a fan. I'm so little of a fan of John McCain as a senator, once again, separating his war service from his Senate career, that I voted independent when he ran against Barack Obama in 2008 because, well, I'm not a fan. Well, apparently John McCain's son is not a fan of Donald Trump's. He had already said that he moved his political affiliation from independent, or rather from Republican to independent. He now moved from independent to Democrat, and he is telling #NeverCNN that because of Trump's presence at a wreath-laying ceremony and how he considers it to be a violation of the sanctity and solemn nature of the place, Arlington National Cemetery, that he will be voting for Kamala Harris. So Jimmy McCain told Jake Tapper of CNN, these men and women are laying in the ground. They have no choice to be or not to be in a campaign ad. I just think that for anyone who's done a lot of time in their uniform, they just understand that inherently, that it's not about you there. It's about these people who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the name of their country. Now, I don't know if Jimmy McCain, John McCain's son, is aware that John McCain ran a political ad involving himself at Arlington National Cemetery, walking amongst the war dead who have no choice but to be there, have no choice whether or not John McCain is standing over their graves, and that political ad went unquestioned upon airing at the time that it did. Now, John McCain's people are saying that the ad showing McCain walking through gravestones with a voiceover saying he would never forget the heroes with whom he served, highlighting his military service, it's unclear if Jimmy McCain is willing to defend his father's use of the cemetery for political ambition, but he did say that he was disgusted by Donald Trump. So they don't hide their naked hypocrisy anymore. They don't seem to notice it. So Jimmy McCain is okay with his father using the ad, but not okay with Donald Trump documenting an event. And oh, by the way, Donald Trump didn't use any of this in a political campaign ad. And according to Trump's people, had no interest in doing so. They wanted to be there for the family members that requested that they be there. 615-737-9986. Andy has a thought on the movie Reagan, which I've not seen it. I'm interested in seeing it. I'm interested in getting some reviews. Andy, what do you got?
Matt, it's awesome to finally get to talk to you. Saw it a couple nights ago, Sunday night. I live in Dixon. The late showing had 15, 20 people in there, which actually was pretty good. But the movie I thought was excellent. If you're old like you and I, it'll be a lot of memories. I'm a shade tree historian at best, and from what I could tell, it's pretty accurate. If you're a young person, you won't relate to some of the things, but they lay it out in like a biographical kind of thing. And it was pretty true to fact. So I think there's enough for young and old to really enjoy it. People are going to learn something, or they're going to remember a lot better time. That's for sure.
So you give it how many Murphs do you give it? Out of 5 Murphys, how many Murphys does it get from Andy?
Man, I give it a 5 Murpher. I really do.
Okay.
I thought Dennis Quaid especially, in the beginning, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it starts with the shooting. And as he kind of walks outside, they superimpose some of the old footage, so it like they morph him into that scene, and he looks like Reagan. And as the thing progresses, and as you deal more with Quaid's character, he really turns into Reagan. I mean, he really kind of becomes him, and I think that speaks to how good an actor he is. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have not seen it, and I'm looking forward to see it, Andy, and that's a great review. I appreciate the 5 Murphs. 5 Murph review from Andy regarding the movie Reagan. I'm looking forward to it. I hear good things. Obviously, there's good, there's bad, and there's the ugly. I mean, it was not all rosy during the Reagan presidency. There was some controversy going on, Iran-Contra being the most obvious, but a little before my time, so I'm excited to see what they do with the film. I will say that the trailers that I've seen, Dennis Quaid seems to very much embody the president of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan. I will, and I know that I'm quibbling, and I've not seen the film, so I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Oh, Jason beat me to it. I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but Reagan gets shot. Jason, spoiler alert, man! Come on, what are you doing over there? The moment, and I give artistic license to it, but I've seen the moment where Ronald Reagan stands before the Brandenburg, is it Brandenburg Gate? I think that's right.
Yes.
And says, Mr. Gorbachev. And it was such a incredible moment in history because Ronald Reagan was advised to not say, tear down this wall. It was believed that that was a step too far. That you can encourage a détente, you can encourage, coming together and trying to loosen some of the strict controls that Mother Russia, the Soviet Union at the time, had over East Germany. But it was a step too far to demand the dismantling of the wall, and Reagan was having none of it. And so I think it was 1987, he stood before the Brandenburg Gate and said, Mr. Gorbachev, come to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. And everybody cheered. Everybody was excited. And Reagan added, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And seeing that on film and it being slightly differently delivered by Dennis Quaid, I don't know, it was just different. And maybe it's because I've seen that moment so many times in history. I've heard it and I've witnessed it. 220 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Kamala Harris, as predicted by yours truly, before we left the airwaves, I felt like she would have some commentary on what happened in Winder, Georgia. She's already commented on it. She's offering remarks in New Hampshire and made a few remarks about the shooting in Winder. We will tell you what those remarks were in just a moment. It's 2:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Savory Spice. Savory Spice has 2 locations. We want to tell you about both. Savory Spice has deliciousness in both locations. And I truly believe you up your food game by upping your spice game. There comes a point where you don't want the cheapest just because it's the cheapest. There comes a point where you're going to up your cut of meat. You're going to up that grade of salmon. You're going to up those veggies. You go to the farmer's market instead of grabbing something out of the produce section at your local discount grocer. Well, what about upping that spice game as well? Because your quality of spice matters. But just because you get more doesn't mean you have to pay more, and they prove it every day at Savory Spice. They got so many different lines of products. I mean, obviously, they've got all the spices that you need to make food taste delicious. And any type of food you're cooking, whether it's Chinese or Mexican or traditional, I mean, whatever you're cooking, they've got a spice for you at Savory Spice. Secondarily, they've got many different products that can help you up your game in the kitchen, right? If you don't know your way around the kitchen, try the Spice and Easy line. The Spice and Easy line puts all of the spices there for you in a convenient bag. And you've got everything you need to cook a delicious meal. In addition, they tell you exactly what to buy at the grocery store, the meat, the veggies that are involved in the dish, and they tell you exactly how to prepare it. They make it, wait for it, spice and easy at Savory Spice. 2 locations, one's on the Square in Franklin, the other L&L Market on Charlotte Pike in Nashville. When you stop by, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice.
The deadly mass school shooting in Georgia, Russian election interference crackdown, and there are ties to Tennessee coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I've got a couple of updates on the shooting happening in Winder, Georgia as well. Thank you much, Ken Weaver. We look forward to that dentist newscast. Why are you shaking your head, Belle? Have you not told him?
It's just.
Have you not told Weaver?
It's a dad joke, and it needs to go where all dad jokes go, which is a place it needs to die.
I wonder if anyone informed Ken Weaver about the dentist newscast.
They did not.
when he made the agreement to do my newscast.
I got a big old box of dad jokes in here.
See there, Weaver likes it. It's you know why I call it your dentist newscast, Ken Weaver.
Sad brother Murphy.
Because it's at 2:30. You get it? Yeah, 2:30.
I got it, man.
What happens when it's 2:30?
I just want to punch,
you go to the
myself
dentist
in the face. Take the microphone and smash it.
Mission accomplished. There.
Forehead.
I love it.
Yeah, I got a little card deck of dad jokes sitting right underneath a pocket knife an old boy gave me at our last thing in Murfreesboro.
All right, you got them in there?
Yeah.
Give me one.
All right.
Hit me with it.
All right,
Let's go.
I'm going to give you the one.
Oh, no. Yeah, Chris Hand said that's communist stuff there.
All right, right here at the top of the card deck. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself?
I don't know, Ken. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself?
It was too tired.
Hey! Yeah! Too tired, 2:30.
Oh, yes, sir.
By the way, if you're not too tired, speaking of dads and dad jokes, if you're not too tired, it's a horrible transition, but I'm going to make it anyway. I'm going to be out and about at 9:30 Friday morning. There's a brand new store opening called Volunteer Outfitters. I'm very excited. Quality outdoor apparel. They carry popular name brands like Drake, Waterfowl, Banded, Avery, Southern Marsh, Marshwear. They got boots. They got flops. They got Orca coolers. They got all sorts of sporting goods. They've got hunting, fishing, and casual apparel, footwear, and they're going to be located at 593 New Shackle Island Road, I should say, in Hendersonville. New Shackle Island Road in Hendersonville. 533 is the numbered address. Come see us Friday morning, big grand opening, 9:30 to 11 before my show on Friday. We're giving away 2 Orca coolers, a pair of extra tough boots, a Drake shirt, and a lot more. Friday morning, September 6th, this Friday, not tomorrow, but the next day, 9:30 to 11, I'll be there, and then I have to boogie on down to Music Row to get on my radio show. But I'll probably be there around 9 o'clock on Friday morning, I'll just be honest with you. So 9-ish to 11 a.m., and once again, we're giving away a couple of Orca coolers and a pair of extra tough boots and a Drake shirt and much, much more. Come by and see us. Once again, New Shackle Island Road in Hendersonville. It is Volunteer Outfitters. Very, very excited about this grand opening of this brand new facility. George is in Spring Hill. He's got a thought on the Reagan movie. Hello, George.
Yeah, I know why he was so mad. My father was a huge Republican donor and had the opportunity to be at a Republican event and sat at the table with Ronald Reagan when he was president at the time, or just after he'd left.
Wow.
And my dad asked him, says, "Why were you so mad when you made that speech?" He says, "Well, before this speech, they had me in this building that was right next to the wall, and I looked out over that wall from the window, and I thought of all the people who had died running for freedom. And the longer I stood there, the madder I got." And he came out and, yeah, he went after Gorbachev.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's a great story.
That's why he said it the way he said it.
I absolutely love it. I love it. I look forward to seeing the film. Once again, I'm not judging the film by that moment, but there's a slight variance as to the way the Dennis Quaid as Reagan delivered the line. And, I mean, you just can't replicate the way that Reagan delivered the line. But that's a fabulous story, George. Thank you for making it. It is 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for news.
.2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And right now, CNN says 4 are dead, dozens injured at a mass shooting at that high school about an hour's drive east of Atlanta, Georgia this morning. Aaron Katursky says it happened at Appalachia High School in Winder in Barrow County.
Starting at about 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. That's when the sheriff says that the first 911 call came in for an active shooter at this high school in Winder, Georgia. From there, we're now told by multiple law enforcement sources that 4 people were killed, approximately 20 or so injured. And again, the severity, the types of those injuries are not immediately clear.
Now, there are reports a suspect is in custody, reportedly a 14-year-old boy. Election 2024, Attorney General Merrick Garland emerged from a Justice Department election interference task force meeting with a few things to say a few hours ago.
The Justice Department is seizing 32 internet domains that the Russian government and the Russian-sponsored actors have used to engage in a covert campaign to interfere and influence the outcome of our country's elections.
So 2 Russian nationals have been indicted. They worked for Russia Today, which is a Russian state-controlled media outlet. The Tennessean says they're accused of funneling nearly $10 million to a Tennessee-based online content creation company. They published English language videos on social media sites like TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. This company, according to the Tennessean, has more than 2,000 videos posted in the last 10 months. They have been viewed more than 16 million times. The indictment does not name this Tennessee content creator. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Very excited about a big event that is upcoming, brought to you by Men of Valor, happening October 1st. So just to look at your calendars and think about doing something with Men of Valor, a very special organization. More to come. It's a professional tease that I'm offering you, but Men of Valor, men-of-valor.org. I want you to think about the fact that 90% of men in prison will eventually get out. 90%. What type of men will be leaving those prison walls when they do eventually get out? Sadly, around half of them will return within 3 years. 3 years. Half of the men that get out of prison return within 3 years, unless they are disciplined and given a future full of hope and love and opportunity. That's why Men of Valor exists. They have less than 10% of their graduates return to prison, and over 90% success rate. Why? Well, it's the power of God and God's people. And Men of Valor needs volunteers in the prisons. They need volunteers on their campus for afterlife reentry services. They need job partners and Bible study teachers and mentors that discipline men in their everyday lives. If this sounds like you, if you're looking to offer yourself to service to the community, may I recommend a wonderful organization, Men of Valor. Go to men-of-valor.org. men-of-valor.org, and stay tuned for more information about that October 1st event coming up with Men of Valor. Hello, it's Matt Murphy, and all month long, our friends at Kraft Body Scan continue to offer an incredible couples heart and lung scan for only $149. These couples heart and lung scans are valued at over $2,500. It's a huge savings for anyone looking for a simple and non-invasive way to check out their heart and lungs, and I know from personal experience. I had a full body scan from Kraft Body Scan about a year ago. I'm going back because I want to make sure that everything under the hood is looking A-OK. I encourage you to do the same and bring your loved one. We've heard countless stories of lives saved by getting one of these scans. Major issues can be discovered before you have symptoms. Take that proactive step toward better health today through early detection. Book your couple's heart and lung scan for just $149 at this website, togetherwescan.com. How about that? Togetherwescan.com, or call 615-436-1000, 436-1000 for Kraft Body Scan. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy. Monitoring the fluid situation out of Winder, Georgia. We continue to provide for you as best we can live updates on that situation. I know Ken Weaver's back busily in the newsroom gathering those headlines as we speak. Vice President Kamala Harris, presidential candidate Kamala Harris, called the shooting that killed 4 people at the Georgia high school a, quote, senseless tragedy. Speaking at a rally in New Hampshire earlier today, I was unable to find the audio, and I don't need it. The Democrat presidential nominee said her heart is with the students and teachers of the school, and she immediately then called for action to curb gun violence. Quote, it is outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their kids to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. We have to stop it. It doesn't have to be this way. Well, what way would you want it to be, Madam Vice President? She talked about how she travels around to trade schools and colleges last year, meeting young Americans. She then said she asked a group of students if they had to go through an active shooter drill while they were at school. Quote, every time the auditorium was packed and almost every hand went up, end quote, she said. Harris said that kids in school should not have to use energy being concerned about a shooter busting through the door of the classroom. It doesn't have to be this way, said Kamala Harris. As expected, as predicted by me, your host, the vice president and candidate for president of the United States of America, is demanding certain gun reforms that would include curtailing your ability to own certain types of guns depending on their designation by liberals as quote unquote assault weapons. The high school at the center of today's mass shooting apparently received a phone call earlier today. This is according to multiple law enforcement agencies. The high school received a phone call warning about a shooting. Law enforcement officials say that Appalachia High School received that phone call this morning saying that there would be a shooting at 5 schools and that Appalachia would be the first. Wow. It's not known who placed the call, obviously. Officials tell news outlets and news agencies, including the one I'm reading from now, CNN, that they are investigating the call and where it originated. So, obviously, these other school shootings have not come to fruition, and according to multiple law enforcement sources, the individual suspect in custody is a 14-year-old, not dead, in custody. 2 students who were in the building during the shooting at Appalachia High School described their experiences, saying, when it happened, I entered the school, and then we were there for like second period, so I was like during the middle of it, and I heard screaming and everything, said Janice Martinez. She thought someone was playing around in the hallways or something. I thought it was just yelling or something else. I didn't think much of it. And then the noise kept getting louder and louder, and I'm like, no, and I told everybody to get down. as we have had Brink Fiddler on the show in the past, and we'll have him on again to discuss this, I don't know that I've ever experienced, I'm trying to remember. I don't know that I've ever experienced a gunshot inside of a building, like a pistol shot or a rifle shot inside of the building, or a shotgun for that matter. I was at a shooting lane in Birmingham, an indoor range, and I thought I was the only. I thought everyone else had left. There was a guy. It was only like a 5-lane shooting range in downtown Birmingham, short range, about 25, 30 yards. And there was a guy shooting down the way from me toward the door, and I saw he stopped shooting, and I saw the door open, and then I saw the door close. I thought he had left. So I was reloading, and I took off my hearing protection, and he fired inside the room, and it was bad. I mean, it was bad.
That'll wake you up real quick.
Oh, man, I thought I was going deaf in my right ear. And I learned and that'll teach you never to remove your hearing protection while you're in a shooting lane. But I did, and I learned the hard way. That said, Brink Fiddler always tells us that hearing gunshots inside of a building it doesn't sound the way that one thinks that it would. It's not like a movie set, right? It doesn't come off as we hear it in the movies. And so when I hear people describing what they thought to be firecrackers or what they thought to be general noise or the clap of a book falling to a floor, I can understand that because we're told that these things do not sound as if you would imagine them sounding. On the Super Talk membersnutrition.com super text line, maybe the schools wouldn't be this way if we had secured the borders. 8167 writes, I don't know. 8947 said, how would that be any different than tornado drills, talking about these school safety drills? We live in a dangerous world. Our dangerous world is even more so dangerous because of our open southern borders. That is certainly correct. And in this dangerous world, we have to plan for dangerous things happening, whether or not they involve a gun or they don't. In America is different. We're different than the rest of the world. I don't compare us to the rest of the world because I think we grew differently, we were born differently, and we have different values. And with those different values come different challenges. Christina says, try being right next to a 50 cal going off in a small room. I can't imagine that. Or in a car, for that matter. $87.15 says, this has nothing to do with the border. It's because we have 3 times the amount of guns as we have people. That's not the figure. I think the best estimate that we came up with earlier today, 87.15, was that we have about 450 million guns in the United States of America, not 900 million as your figures would presume. Kathy writes in and says there were 1,900 kids in that school, in a high school. Should we go back to smaller schools? I don't know that that's the answer either. Emotions run high in the immediate aftermath of a school shooting like this. And I have a lot of people on the membersnutrition.com super text line, and I'm here for it. I understand that many people believe differently than I do regarding gun control, gun safety, and how you answer these types of shootings. But 8715 says has nothing to do with the border. It has everything to do with the amount of guns that we have. Well, a gun never killed anyone without a person involved. Well, I mean, absent one of those one-off stories about a gun falling over and the safety being off and it shooting and it accidentally firing and hitting somebody. 99.99% of the time, a person is killed because the individual operating the gun, either accidentally or on purpose, shoots them and kills them. One can point to other countries regarding gun control and safety. And yes, these statistics involving the amount of mass shootings go down. The ability to defend oneself goes down as well. We look at individual communities and major cities and arteries across the United States of America where there are gun control laws in place, New York City, Chicago being the two most prominent. And these are the two places where we see more gun deaths than anywhere else in the country. Are there other answers? I believe it to be the mentality of the individuals involved. I think our young people are losing a sense of humanity. I believe you know what? If I could ban anything, if you want to talk about the curtailing of liberty, and I understand that what I'm about to say is a curtailing of liberty, if I could ban anything, it would be the internet.
There was a point in this country where, especially in the South, where kids would bring their rifles to school, whether it was just, I'm going to leave it on the gun rack in my truck, or I've got shooting class, and today's the day I'm bringing the gun in for my shooting class. And we didn't see this then. If it was the guns, this would just be an extension all the way back then.
Well, and I tell you, one of the most tragic examples of school violence in America's history happened in Bath, Michigan in the 1920s, late 20s, early 30s.
Was that the truck bomb?
Yeah, that was the guy that he was frustrated with city officials. They had gone up on his taxes. He was having other issues in his home life. He killed his wife at his house. He rigged his house to explode. He drove to the school with a truck bomb. He had rigged the school to explode. He was a maintenance worker at the school. It was a consolidated school. And because of the consolidated school, his taxes had gone up in the community because they used that tax money to build the school. And he was against all of that. He didn't believe that it needed to happen. One way or the other, this guy was he was a nut. He killed his wife, booby-trapped his house, had already booby-trapped the school, went to the school, waited for the bombs to go off, and then drove his truck full of shrapnel into the midst of it all and into the midst of the first responders who were literally dragging children out of the school at the time, and blew himself up and blew all of the first responders up. It was, I want to say that it remains the largest school tragedy in American history.
And I think it's also considered the first modern day mass school murder.
Sure, and maybe even one would say the first act of mass casualty terrorism in the United States of America. So these things happen in different forms quite often. I remember when I was going to school in 1989, 1990, 1990, when I graduated high school in 1991, at some point during my high school years, Bell, to your point, they banned visible guns in automobiles. They didn't ban them in your automobiles. They just said that they could not be visible, like on a gun rack. They said, no more of that. We've got to modernize our approach to doing things. And if you bring your gun to school, it has to be in your trunk, or it has to be concealed or unseen. 2:51, we will continue all afternoon through the efforts of Ken Weaver and Brian Wilson at The Drive to bring you the latest information on this mass shooting in Georgia that has killed 4. Back in a moment with a visit with Brian Wilson right after this on Super Talk. Winding down our time together, handing off to Brian Wilson and the drive right after Ken Weaver delivers the newscast. Before we get to that, though, I want to end on a lighter note. You know, I have questioned, by the way, hello, Mr. Wilson, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I have questioned whether or not Kamala Harris actually worked for McDonald's, Brian, because there's nobody that seems to remember her there. Well,
you know, I saw that apparently the campaign is refusing to even, take questions about whether this is true or not or provide any proof that she did. And I don't know that the McDonald's Corporation is going to provide that information. So it's sort of
it's just weird, right?
Why would you claim that if it weren't true?
I don't know. Well, we might have our answer from the Babylon Bee, Brian.
Well, there you go.
After skeptics questioned Kamala Harris's claim that she once worked at McDonald's, researchers have now found new evidence of her employment and rapid promotion to shift manager after a sordid affair with Mayor McCheese.
All right, cheap shot, but funny.
No, my favorite line in this story is, Mayor McCheese, the mayor of McDonald Land, who has an enormous cheeseburger for a head, vehemently denies the allegations. So, there you go. In a more serious note, I know you've been following this serious situation out of Georgia, and I'm certain you'll have the updates for us.
Yes, we'll be watching that very closely. In fact, we're expecting in the next few minutes there will be an update from officials there in Winder, Georgia, at Appalachia High School, where 4 dead and many, many people injured, maybe 30 or so injured. Getting an update will be, of course, our top priority. There's another story. The Department of Justice had a story out today about Russian disinformation and interference in U.S. elections. And they mentioned a Tennessee firm that was somehow involved in that. We've been trying to track that down. We think we have it. Pete Hegseth, we're expecting, will join us in the 4 o'clock hour. And at the 5 o'clock hour, the return of the once popular and soon to be again wildly successful Three Amigos segment with Brian Wilson, Chris Webber, and now Ken Weaver. So we're looking forward to that at 5:35 today.
Cannot wait. The Weaves has the news right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and right after Ken Weaver's newscast, that voice you just heard, Brian Wilson in the drive for the next 4 hours. Friends, I hope you enjoy it as I will. Enjoy your afternoon as well. Hug on your loved ones. We'll talk to you tomorrow at high noon. Until then, so long, everybody.